And my name is Adeline Jones. I'm the mayor of Blue Lake, and I'm the vice chair. I'm taking over this evening because Meredith Matthews is not here. So we'll start in with our first order of business. I will call this meeting to order, and can we have a roll call vote, please? Roll call.
Director Wilson? Here. Director Katie?
Here.
Director Bushnell?
Here.
Director Jones?
Here.
Director Castellano?
Here.
Okay, great. We do have a quorum. Item 2 is our consent calendar. Is there anyone from the board that would like to remove something from the consent calendar? No. Seeing none, is there anyone in the audience? And seeing no hands on Zoom either, we'll come back to the board for a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Go ahead.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made by Michelle Bushnell, seconded by Randy Katie. Any further discussion from the board? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? It passes. Item 3, oral and written communications. This time is provided for people to address the board or to submit written communications concerning matters not on the agenda. Board members may respond to statements, but any request that requires board action will be referred to staff for review. Reasonable time limits may be imposed on both the total amount of time allocated for this item and on the time permitted to each individual speaker. Such time allotment or portion thereof shall not be transferred to other speakers. Is there anyone here for public comment? And seeing no hands on Zoom, we will move on then to item 4. Approve proclamation recognizing Jill Duffy for her years of service. I'm really glad to see Jill Duffy here. We go back a few years ago when I worked for her campaign when she was our 5th district supervisor, and then Blue Lake became part of the 3rd district about 10 years ago, so we're not even in the 5th anymore. And then, of course, working with Jill a few times when she was head of the Humboldt Waste Management Authority. So it's great to see you here tonight. All right, we have a proclamation. I would like to read it. Can do that before or after we pass it, whatever is the board's pleasure.
Could you read it first?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Oh, the whereases. Here we go. Proclamation in recognition of Jill K. Duffy for her years of service. Whereas Jill K. Duffy was hired as the executive director for Humboldt Waste Management Authority in 2012 after serving 8 years as the 5th District Humboldt County Supervisor. And whereas Jill brought along her uncanny ability to consume and comprehend materials and complex regulatory documents, along with her planning acumen to spearhead the Phase 1 and Phase 2 closure of the Cummings Road landfill while working through a cleanup and abatement order for the Cummings Road burn ash site, and whereas whether she was giving presentations to city councils or talking to customers, her unbridled enthusiasm for HWMA and its programs were evident. Throughout her time, she worked tirelessly to strengthen relationships with residents and jurisdictions through her creation of education and outreach media at a time when the Humboldt Waste Management Authority was an afterthought to most. And whereas this enthusiasm for HWMA is eclipsed only by her tireless efforts to edify the HWMA and its services provided to include no-charge mattress drop-off, a vast expansion of hazardous waste services, solidifying long-term recycling processing and solid waste disposal, as well as implementing sharps and pharmaceutical disposal options throughout the county. And whereas her sound judgment and direction has shaped what Humboldt Waste Management Authority is today and has shifted the HWMA from a simple transfer station that handles solid waste to a regional entity that strives to implement sustainable and efficient waste management practices that promote public health and reduce environmental impacts. And whereas her positive attitude and willingness to take on any task instilled confidence and a sense of community throughout the Humboldt Waste Management Authority staff, with her willingness to guide and counsel the next generation of organizational leaders, ensuring the health of the authority remains long after her. And whereas Jill K. Duffy, Humboldt Waste Management Authority's Executive Director, retired on January 15th, 2022, with almost 10 years of exemplary service to the authority and over 25 years and counting of service to the public. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the HWMA Board of Directors expresses its appreciation for her outstanding record of personal and professional achievements and for her dedicated service to the Humboldt Waste Management Authority and all residents of Humboldt County. We wish you good luck in your much-deserved retirement and know that the residents of Humboldt County, along with the staff you leave behind at the authority, are better for having received your guidance. Round of applause. So we now need a motion and a second and a vote on this proclamation.
I would like to make a motion that we approve this proclamation.
I'll second.
Motion made, seconded. And any further discussion from the board?
We may need to open it up for
Any public? It's a green light in the middle.
Oh, I can't even see that. First, I really want to say thank you. This was an unexpected surprise. Eric sent me a text saying, hey, and I really want to just acknowledge that working for the authority served a number of pretty significant challenges at times, but it was also one of the most gratifying opportunities. I've had a lot of different opportunities in our community, and this is without a doubt one of the most gratifying and enjoyable organizations and endeavors that I've done. But I got to tell you, it wasn't me so much as it was, we have General Counsel who has been here through a few of your general directors and EDs. And we also have this amazing staff. And it's also been just really phenomenal to watch them grow and develop and now taking the reins to the organization. So I know you're in really great hands. And there are a lot of other people who have participated, through the course of this little organization. So I really appreciate it, and I really wish you all, the best. I'm going to stick around for this next presentation because, this is still going to be an ongoing thing, and it's something that a lot of people really don't appreciate. It's not throw your items in the trash, walk away, and it's done. It's throw your items away in a trash, and we're still looking at 30 years of having to maintain and manage landfills. So there's a pretty, significant responsibility on the part of, our community to figure out how we can reduce and reuse and, find other ways to be dealing with our materials that we generate. So I thank you all, and Eric, you're doing great. Thank you.
Okay, very good. We have a motion and a second to approve this proclamation. If there's
Vice
no-
Chair Jones, I believe we have Gary Penning from Dry Creek Landfill as well that would like to make a public comment.
Oh, thank you. Okay, Gary, you're on.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to tell Jill how much I appreciated her. I mean, she's correct. It's the staff, that she supervised, but also it was her willingness to come into the job and learn how the solid waste system works and take the time to learn how it works. And I think the authority is in a better spot because of Jill's efforts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary. Are there any other hands up? Okay. Did you want to say something,
I did,
Michelle?
please.
Okay.
I haven't known Jill probably as long as some have, but I have gotten to know her over the last year and really appreciate her willingness for community and for county and her interest in the county. You know, she stepped up in many roles, and I just really appreciated it. It's really giving of yourself. It takes a lot. You know, you get a lot, not always good. And so I just really appreciate the efforts from you. And the reason is to make Humboldt a better place. So thank you so much, and happy retirement.
Anyone else? Okay. Leslie?
Sure. I want to echo the thanks and appreciation that others have already brought forward. Humboldt Waste Management Authority was the first kind of authority board that I sat on after being elected to council, and just want to say I learned a lot from you, Jill, from your leadership, and from my involvement with HWMA, and I appreciate the continued efforts and dedication that you have for the community, as Supervisor Bushnell spoke to. And I look forward to your ongoing engagement with community in the ways that suit you and serve you as you enjoy your retirement. So thank you.
Very good. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, again, as the rest of the board has said, I really appreciate the time that I've been able to work with you and to see as much as advancement as we had during that time. And things have come together, closing the landfill, all of the other stuff with the ongoing day-to-day challenges, and the way that you kept the board informed and moved us forward. And so very much hope you enjoy your retirement, and thank you for your time.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Randy.
I just want, excuse me, I just want to say happy retirement and thank you. It was always great when you came to Ferndale. You always kept us informed and let us know what was going on. And good job, and I hope you enjoy your retirement. Well deserved.
All right, very good. All right, we now have a motion and a second. If there are no further comments, we'll take a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Or maybe no.
Okay, motion approved. Proclamation approved. Item 5, receive preliminary timeline and pathway for in-county organics processing. Staff report.
Thank you, Chair. Tonight, you will be presented with a high-level view of a preliminary timeline and pathway for in-county organics processing. I want to start by touching on some of the main factors to consider when scoping a large-volume organics processing facility, so we can gain a better idea of the total scope and potential projects. Some of the main factors to consider is waste capture, determining a processing strategy, importance of end-use markets, planning, permitting, and location of facility, along with capital costs and waste management fees. Waste capture is simply a term for the amount and type of organic material that the facility will accept. This can change based off the processing technology the facility uses, the region the facility is based in, and the contracts or agreements that the facility is able to secure. But in general, this encompasses residential and commercial food waste, green waste, sludge material, and several types of manures. Not all facilities can or want to process all of these types of material, and total tonnage is key to scoping the size and facility correctly. Thanks to the newly amended Joint Powers Agreement, the HWMA now has flow control over all member agency organic wastes, as well as solid waste. Processing determination will determine the type of organic waste processing method that the facility will utilize. This can range from passively aerated systems, such as static piles and windrows, actively aerated systems, where the air is forced through those static piles, in-vessel compost systems, and anaerobic digestion. Each one of these strategies has its own set of benefits and detriments. But this determination can impact the space needed for the operation, the site layout, capital and operational costs, as well as the types of wastes accepted at the facility. An additional consideration, each of these processes has a specific range of feedstock mixture for optimal processing that should be followed for best results. The type of waste received, again, plays a large factor in maintaining this correct mixture. A key component to any processing facility is ensuring the end product has a viable end-use market. The processing determination will dictate what end-use products this facility creates. In general, for composting operations, end-use cases are residential and commercial landscaping activities, jurisdictional procurement and landscaping activities, large agricultural uses, along with soil and fertilizer amendments. Anaerobic digesters create two things: digestate solids that can be easily utilized for many of the same end-use items as compost, along with other value-added products, such as livestock bedding and fuel pellets. Biogas is the other byproduct and can be processed into natural gas or transportation fuels, and it can also be utilized for electricity and heat generation. Locating, planning, and permitting a facility is generally the most time-intensive step in the facility plan. This list is certainly not an all-inclusive and serves more of an example of the myriad of different permits and requirements an organic facility will need to meet prior to operation. The scope of these requirements can range from initial studies such as CEQA, environmental impact reports, to such small details as, can the property receive phase 3 power? All of these things need to be taken into account when choosing, permitting, and building a facility. I'm not going to go into in-depth at this stage because, as noted, the location and the processing determination can have a large impact on the scope of this facility and the design and permits that it may require in the future. At the end of the day, determining the cost of the facility will allow us to choose funding mechanisms that are appropriate and help us project the impacts to the current and future waste management fees. While we are too early in the process to provide a ballpark figure here tonight, staff hopes this information will be provided through a potential RFP process that I will touch on a bit later tonight. Now that we have a better idea of the scope and magnitude of this type of facility, I'd like to present an overview of the proposed timeline needed to bring a potential in-county organics processing facility online. As you can see, the timeline for this project has the potential to stretch into 2029. The first step in the process is developing an RFP to assess capacity and processing feasibility. The successful proposer of this RFP would provide a recommendation for the size, scope, and costs of a processing facility within Humboldt County. We believe this can be finalized prior to July of 2024. Member agencies, along with City of Fortuna and the City of Trinidad, have pledged grant funding towards the potential costs related to this RFP. The draft RFP would be brought back before this board at their July meeting for approval with a 60-day circulation timeline once approved. Work would then commence on the RFP in November of that year, with completion in the first half of 2025. At this time, the HWMA board can make a more informed decision based on costs and potential impacts, and if they would like to continue down this process, or determine that the county may be better served through in-county processing provided by a private entity. Should the board choose to continue, the next step is property acquisition and facility planning. Location is critically important to ensure easy and available access, with the size of the property needed and zoning playing key roles as well. At this time, master planning can also begin for infrastructure and operations, with both the property purchase and planning finalized, hopefully by the end of 2025. Although staff believes securing property may be one of the larger hurdles of the entire project, based on HWMA's experience within the last 3 years. As mentioned earlier, permitting is often the most arduous aspect of a project like this. It is the main reason the timeline has the potential to stretch into 2029. Permitting for organics processing facilities can take anywhere from 2 to 5 years and is heavily dependent on location and type of facility. Construction for similar facilities can take up to 24 months, with in-place infrastructure such as roads, paving, power, and sewer access having the potential to reduce that time frame. Staff believes a realistic time frame for a facility to come online in county would be sometime in 2028 or early 2029. And again, I'll reference back to the overview timeline of the potential project. And with that, staff's recommendation is that the board receive the presentation, discuss and provide direction for the preliminary timeline and pathway. And as always, board can provide direction as appropriate. Additionally, staff is available for questions should you have them.
Thank you, Director Kellerman. At this time, I guess we'll open it up to the board for questions or comments concerning this issue. Okay.
How much land are you looking to acquire?
So unfortunately, we cannot determine that. That is what we hope one of the items that the potential RFP for the feasibility study would let us know. And the reason for that is several issues, but the biggest one is the type of processing that will happen at the facility. So if you choose an anaerobic digester, you may not need as much room as if you do static pile or windrows. Those can greatly impact the amount of land that you need for the facility.
So we're still determining what is the process to do that.
That is correct.
That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Michelle?
Thank you. So new still, I get to use that for a little bit. Are you looking in a certain area?
I would imagine, because of the size of the property that we're probably looking at, we will be looking at all areas. I know when HWMA was in the process of looking for property to relocate the Eureka Recycling Center, there was a large outcry from several jurisdictions staff as well as residents about placing it outside of the greater Humboldt Bay area. We want to keep it as centrally located to the majority of the tonnage that it's going to receive, but we're going to have to be a little bit willing to go outside of that greater Humboldt Bay area, I believe, to find a suitable zoning, land use, and permittable site.
So in your searches, I just want to caution about the PG&E and recognize that there is a struggle throughout Humboldt, not the same in every area, but going outside of that area the greater area that you just described, and I know that you guys would do your homework anyways, but there are long-term things going on with PG&E that are really causing a lot of problems with new hookups and so forth. So that would just be my comment for now.
So, comment on the question. So at this time we have a short-term agreement with Cold Creek Company. Is that correct? To and it's finalized January 2024. And how long is that for? And then are we still within the parameters of what the state wants us to be at, looking at as far as 2029 even?
So the plan was to finalize that in 2024, and that is when the staff report was written. We've had some extra information come back from the jurisdictions regarding franchise contract negotiations, and those are still ongoing in process. And so I've spoken with the Coal Creek Compost staff. We felt that it was to the betterment of both parties to hold off on execution of the agreement until the franchise contracts from the jurisdictions were finalized, to ensure we could develop a appropriate scope for transportation and disposal options. We didn't want to execute that contract with a certain amount of tonnage required per month or per week and not be able to meet that. And we did not want to force Coal Creek Compost to provide transportation for material that we didn't have. So as of right now, that contract is, the majority of it is finalized, but when the franchise agreements are finalized through the jurisdictions, we will execute that contract. As far as that is the short-term plan. So if you'll remember, several years ago now, at this point, 2021, the original plan was twofold. We were to use a short-term out-of-county processing and transportation and disposal and processing provider. And we were at the same time looking at in-county processing. So those two pathways are still ongoing at the same time. We will still continue the short-term out-of-county processing, and we will continue that relationship until an in-county processing facility can be brought online. As you can see by the timeline, we're looking at probably somewhere around 2028, 2029. So we will still maintain that short-term out-of-county processing.
So as long as we have a short-term plan, the state is fine with us having that length of time needed for a long-term plan. Is that what I'm hearing?
So I cannot comment for each individual jurisdiction.
Yeah.
If you have very specific questions about your compliance with either your cap, or if you're a small enough entity that you've had a 5-year waiver, I'd be more than happy to reach out to your staff and get an update and provide it to you. But you can also reach out to your staff as well that's designated for solid waste oversight.
Okay, thank you.
So this, given what you just said, I just want to be clear for unincorporated area of Humboldt County. Is that correct?
Is this?
I mean, the comment about other jurisdictions. So as it pertains,
That would go for everybody. So what I do know about unincorporated county is there are several areas that are exempt, that had waivers for 5 years, but there are swaths of unincorporated county that are under a cap currently, a corrective action plan. As long as they follow that cap, and as long as they update it appropriately with CowerCycle and continue to work with CowerCycle, we are hopeful that you won't fall under any compliance issues.
Okay.
We have not heard. We have met with CowerCycle. All the jurisdictions met with CowerCycle as well as with HWMA, and those talks went very well for a potential extension, but that has not been granted, at least to my knowledge yet. But there was no talk of any punitive issues with any of our jurisdictions at that time.
okay, thank you. That's what I wanted better clarification for.
Thank you. Let's see, related to previous board members' questions, I'm wondering if we could, maybe not tonight, but I know there's some legislation that's been kind of moving around, but just get a legislation update at it, related to some of the composting regulations that are shifting. And then in terms of tonight, as you develop the RFP, will you be consulting with different stakeholders? I imagine the local task force, folks like that will be, how are you going to develop the RFP? I guess would be a more general question.
So generally, the authority is done at one of two ways. We've called the Executive Advisory Committee, which is made up of the city managers and the CAO from the county, and they can advise and help authority staff with development. We have also most recently gone to the LTF for guidance and input. We would be more than happy to do both. all of the entities are going to need to weigh in on this RFP. So this will not simply be a HWMA staff generated. This will be a HWMA and member agency and regional effort. There is a potential also that we could bring in consultants that have helped with RFPs or feasibility studies to ensure that we're not missing anything in RFPs. So this will most likely be one of the biggest RFPs the authority has ever done. So we are going to make sure that we have all of our member agencies and stakeholder input to make sure that we're not missing anything.
Thank you. And I'm guessing, I mean, for sure, I don't need to guess it. It will come back before us, you know, as it gets developed.
Absolutely.
So,
Yep.
great. Thank you.
Other questions or comments from board members before I open it up to public? If there is any public comment. Okay, at this time, the public is asked to weigh in if there are any questions or comments concerning this agenda item. I'm not seeing any. Okay, back to the board for direction. Apparently, we received the presentation, discuss and provide direction for the preliminary timeline and pathway and other direction as appropriate. So how much do you need from us this evening?
I think the biggest thing that the board can do is approve the draft timeline and then direct staff to begin preparation of the RFP that will be brought back to the HWMA board no later than their July board meeting, July 2024 board meeting.
Okay, go ahead, Michelle.
Thank you. I have a question around the RFP and so if given that we approve that direction this evening, I want to just make clear in my head that would you need direction on how we want you to create that RFP with what groups, like with the CAO or the other one, or no?
You're more than welcome to provide that direction if you'd like, but HWMA, this is not an RFP that HWMA solely has the bandwidth, nor should they be making the sole decisions for this. At least as far as the RFP creation is concerned. So you're more than welcome to provide direction if you would like HWMA staff to reach out directly to one of your staff members or member agency staff directly. But generally we would follow the process that we have in the past, which is the Executive Advisory Committee and the LTF.
I don't think, for myself, I don't need to micromanage that program. My next question would be, and that's just for myself, so you would anticipate coming back in July with a RFP that is presentable to this board for execution?
We would bring a draft RFP in July for approval by this board, and then we would circulate it for 60 days.
And you feel that's enough time to meet with, it's a large RFP, as you said, and to bring in the other entities that you need to weigh in on that RFP?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
So the LTF, we can call we can request that the chair, which is currently the city of Eureka, call a meeting at any time. The Executive Advisory Committee has always been incredibly responsive when we need those meetings as well. And the worst case, I am very confident that development of an RFP will be brought back and the draft will be ready by July. But if there is an issue or if there's a hiccup, you will know well in advance of that July meeting.
Okay, thank you. And I apologize catching myself up still, so thank you very much.
Okay, so it looks like we need, in the form of a motion, if I'm not mistaken, to approve the draft timeline and then a timeline of an RFP draft to be held by July 2024. Is that what you're looking at?
That's fine.
All right.
I just had a quick comment. But happy to further the motion too. From the perspective of Eureka, I think, I'm guessing you're going to do this anyway, but I think, presenting it to or engaging with both the LTF and the, city managers, county CAO group would be great, just so that everyone's on board. And to Supervisor Bushnell's comment, it may be useful to engage with some of the other agencies that that, such as, our local representative of PG&E, just to kind of start an early stage conversation. If there, for instance, if there's areas that we know are going to be off limits or whatever, it might be good to know about them sooner than later.
Yeah, and so the authority has reached out to RCA as well as PG&E. All of member agency jurisdictions are aware. The city of Fortuna and the city of Trinidad are also aware. So this was a plan all along. It just originally was not a plan for HWMA to take on this process. This HWMA taking on this process is at the request of member agency staff. So all of your jurisdiction staff, member agencies and non-member agencies are well aware, and there are some stakeholders that have been made aware that we're going to be moving forward with this. But we will continue to ensure that we contact anybody that you feel is appropriate to loop in as well.
Thank you. With that, I'll make a motion to receive the preliminary timeline and receive and accept the preliminary timeline and pathway for implementation of the of the organics plan.
Do we need to include the RFP process?
If
It was
Director
in the
Castellano,
timeline, but sure.
Yeah, okay.
I will take that accept that friendly amendment.
and to return to the board with a draft RFP for.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
By July 2024.
Sorry. Yeah.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Is the motion clear? Can the motion be read back, please?
I get it. So the board would approve direction for the preliminary timeline and pathway and direct staff to return to the HWMA board with a draft RFP for organics feasibility at the July 2024 HWMA board meeting.
Thank you. Okay, is there any further discussion from board on the motion and second? And we've already reached out to public, so back to the board for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It passes. All right, we're on item 6. This is a standing item, board member reports. Is there anyone from the board that has a report they would like to make?
Nope.
No?
No.
Okay. No news is good news. And then item 7 is the standing item executive director's report.
Not at this time. Thank you, Vice Chair.
Okay, well then. Seeing as there is no further business, we will adjourn.